It's Jazz Appreciation Month in Washington, D.C. The musical art form developed by Black Americans has strong ties to the U.S. Capitol and is part of American heritage, as TRT World's Colin Campbell explains.
Jazz is often called America's music, and like the melting pot the country aspires to be, its native sound is just as diverse. Jazz is characterized by improvisation, unique rhythms, and distinct melodies developed by Black Americans in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. With deep roots in the African continent, it's evolved into a musical art form with a global influence. As part of Jazz Appreciation Month in the nation's capital, musicians are performing across the city, delivering a mix of traditional and progressive sounds.
I think DC has one of the more healthy jazz scenes in the country.
From the city's cafes to the nightclubs, museums, and more. It's an audible art that has deep ties to the city and reaches around the world.
Jazz takes a very simple melody, and it's very easy to seize the melody. And then you go into lots of improvisation and a lot of creativity.
David Klein is Romanian-American. He started listening to jazz as a child. He's become a regular performer at the Tryst Coffee House, a favorite place for hipsters in Adams Morgan.
It's like more creativity, self-expression, and improvisation. And that's mainly what it means to me, is like the ability to express yourself on the fly.
Klein says that it's important to keep the integrity of the jazz art form even as it appeals to younger audiences. Klein's influences include some of the great pioneers, such as Charlie Parker, considered one of the greatest saxophonists of all time.
He's the first, he's the first saxophonist that I really looked up to and studied a lot. Just to see how different of a style he came up with than anybody who came before him, and how many people after him tried to copy him.
Washington, D.C. is home to a vibrant jazz community. It's also the birthplace of several jazz greats, including the late Duke Ellington. Ellington often spoke about freedom of expression used in jazz music, not just as a form of entertainment, but also as a means of escape for Black Americans from racism and discrimination by white oppressors.
The impact is in the expression, the cultural and creative expression of improvisation in life and in the situation that we found ourselves in.
And Ellington's music, through the architecture of the way he wrote it, these unique voices continue to weave in and out of there and shape this in a way that I've heard no other band do and no other leader do like he did so brilliantly.
Jazz is becoming increasingly popular in the capital city, with more diverse audiences enjoying its eclectic sound. Ken Vandermark is the creator of Ken Vandermark's Made to Break. This group's trademark is its feisty avant-garde instrumentals, but it takes its influences from one of the most defining jazz musicians in the last century.
Well, I'm very influenced by Miles Davis's Electric period, the work there. And there's been a lot of technology that's been developed since then. If you look at people like Duke Ellington and Miles Davis, who are considered major figures in the music, they always incorporated other things. It's an inclusive tradition, you know? It's not a stylistic concern.
There will be plenty of performances throughout D.C. starting this month and into the summer, saluting jazz, an art form that provides harmony to America's culture and heritage, and is appreciated around the globe. Colin Campbell, TRT World, Washington.
DC is celebrating its 5th year of Jazz Appreciation Month. TRT World's Colin Campbell joins us for our showcase today. Hello, Colin. What are people in the DC area expecting as part of the commemoration?
Well, they can expect to take in as much jazz as they want. Almost every day in the city, there's going to be a jazz performance. There are jazz performances at the Smithsonian Museums as part of American history. There are going to be jazz performances on U Street, which is a popular corridor in Washington, D.C., where they play jazz at several different venues. There are going to be open-air concerts just a few blocks from here, away from the TRT World Studios here in Washington, D.C. There is going to be concerts almost every Friday with some type of performance. So anyone who is a big jazz fan can go to any of these venues and listen to jazz as much as they want throughout the month. And these are expected to continue well into the summer as well. This is just the biggest kickoff month. Of course, the pace is going to pick up throughout the month and into the summer. So there's going to be lots of jazz going on almost every day, and that's what people in D.C. can expect, and that's what tourists coming through the capital city can expect.
That sounds very exciting. How would you say jazz music has shaped the music of today?
Oh my goodness. Well, the ways that it has shaped music throughout the decades are almost countless, but we can actually look at how rock and roll has progressed since the 40s and the 50s. We had swing music where jazz had a heavy influence on swing music. We can listen to more recent music that the millennials are into, like R&B and soul. There are so many different ways that jazz has had its effect with its chord progressions, with the way that singers actually belt out notes like Beyonce or Alicia Keys. Some experts say that the way that they bend their notes and they use several notes within one musical frame could be compared to Etta James. So you have all of these influences that have spanned decades, and many people are still enjoying jazz for that reason. And that's why you're seeing people of different generations enjoying this musical art form because of the way that it affected music way back when and the way that it's still affecting music today.
Well, thank you very much, Colin.